The Unraveling Thread, Chapter 1, The Shattered Image. The ceramic plate, still laden with half-eaten pasta, hit the wall with a sickening smash. Sauce splattered, a crimson stain against the pale yellow paint. Silence. The kind that screams louder than any shout. My 5-year-old daughter, Lily, froze in mid-chew, her small hand still holding a fork, stared wide-eyed at the mess. My wife, Sarah, stood over the ruined meal, chest heaving, eyes blazing. "You're ruining everything, Lily." Sarah's voice, usually so controlled, was a raw, guttural shriek. "You're ruining our perfect family. This dinner, this life, everything." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Sarah, what are you doing?" I shouted, pushing myself away from the table, shielding Lily with my body. "What am I doing?" she retorted, a hysterical laugh bubbling up. "What am I doing? I'm trying to have one normal family dinner. One. And all she talks about is her imaginary friend. Mr. Whispers told me this. Mr. Whispers said that. It's creepy, Mark. It's not normal." Lily whimpered, clinging to my leg, her face buried against my jeans. Her small body trembled. Mr. Whispers. He had been a constant companion for Lily for the past few months. A quiet, unassuming presence that only Lily seemed to perceive. He never caused trouble. He just whispered to Lily about things, little things, sometimes things that seemed oddly specific. "She's 5, Sarah. Kids have imaginary friends," I argued, my voice tight with a desperate plea for reason. "Not like this. Not one that tells her things about a garden she's never seen, or a secret passage in a house that doesn't exist." Sarah's voice rose again, bordering on a wail. "It's unsettling. Our friends, my parents, they look at us like there's something wrong with her. And you just let her do it. You encourage it." This wasn't about Mr. Whispers. This was about Sarah's obsession with appearances. Our perfectly curated life in the affluent suburbs of Memphis. The perfect house, the perfect jobs, the perfect family photos on Instagram. Lily's imaginary friend, her quiet, often ethereal nature, didn't fit into Sarah's pristine, polished image. "I've had enough, Mark," Sarah said, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl. She walked to the counter, pulled a stack of papers from a discreet folder, and threw them onto the table, scattering remnants of ceramic and pasta. "Sign these. Custody agreement. Divorce papers. You can have her. I can't do this anymore. I can't have a child who makes us look strange, imperfect." My blood ran cold. Divorce? Custody? My vision blurred. She was serious, deadly serious. "Sarah, you're not thinking straight," I pleaded, my voice cracking. "Oh, I'm thinking perfectly straight, Mark. For the first time in years, I want a normal life. A life where I'm not constantly apologizing for my child's bizarre behavior. A life where I don't have to pretend everything is perfect when it's clearly not." She pointed a trembling finger at Lily, who was now openly sobbing. "She's ruining us, Mark. Ruining us." I scooped Lily into my arms, her small body trembling against mine. Her cries tore at my soul. My mind raced. Leave? Where would we go? My parents were gone. My sister lived halfway across the country. I had friends, but "I won't sign them," I said, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. "Not now, not ever." Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "Then leave, Mark. Take her and go. I don't care. Just get out of my perfect house." My perfect house. My perfect life. All shattered by a 5-year-old and her invisible friend. I walked out of the kitchen, Lily clutching my neck, her tears wetting my shoulder. I grabbed a small duffel bag from the hall closet, throwing in a few essentials for myself and Lily. My wallet, my phone, my keys. As I walked out the front door, the scent of spilled tomato sauce still lingered in the air, a pungent reminder of the wreckage we left behind. The perfectly manicured lawn, the blossoming azaleas, the pristine facade of our house, it all felt like a cruel joke. Chapter 2. The Whispers Grow Stronger. We ended up at my friend David's place. He was a bachelor, lived in a small, slightly chaotic apartment, but his heart was bigger than any mansion. He opened his door without question, his expression shifting from surprise to immediate concern as he saw Lily's tear-streaked face and my own grim expression. "Everything okay, Mark?" he asked, his gaze settling on Lily. "No, David, not okay," I admitted, ushering Lily inside. "Can we crash here for a bit? Just a few days?" He nodded, already moving to get Lily a juice box and a blanket. David, always the steady one. Lily, exhausted from the emotional turmoil, fell asleep on his sofa, clutching a worn teddy bear. That night, lying on David's air mattress, I stared at the unfamiliar ceiling, replaying Sarah's words, "Ruining our perfect family." The bitterness, the self-righteous anger in her voice. It wasn't the first time. The cracks had been forming for a while. Her obsession with outward perfection, her constant need for approval, had slowly chipped away at the foundation of our marriage. Lily's unique, often solitary world clashed too sharply with Sarah's manufactured reality. The next morning, Lily seemed calmer, but Mr. Whispers was more present than ever. "Mr. Whispers says the bluebird will bring us a feather today," Lily announced at breakfast, pointing to the window. Sure enough, a few minutes later, a vibrant blue jay landed on the sill, then flew away, leaving behind a delicate blue feather on the window screen. "Mr. Whispers says the old house has a secret garden with a stone bench and a rusty gate," she murmured later, drawing furiously with crayons. "And there's a place where the sunflowers grow taller than the roof." I tried to rationalize it. Coincidence, random observations, but the blue feather and the details about the garden, they felt too specific. "Where is this old house, Lily?" I asked gently, trying to sound casual. She shrugged, her eyes wide. "Mr. Whispers just knows. He says it's very far away, and that someone there is waiting." A chill ran down my spine. Someone waiting? The next few days were a blur of worried phone calls from concerned friends who had heard snippets of the breakup from Sarah. I offered vague explanations, protecting Lily and ourselves from further gossip. Sarah, true to her word, had filed for divorce. The papers arrived at David's apartment. I still refused to sign, but the real focus was Lily. Her conversations with Mr. Whispers became more vivid, more detailed. He wasn't just a friendly voice. He was a guide. "Mr. Whispers says the tiny doll is under the floorboard near the big fireplace," Lily whispered one evening, pulling at my sleeve. "It's looking for its home." A tiny doll? Under a floorboard? Near a fireplace? It sounded like something out of a fairy tale. But the specificity of it tugged at something deep within me. My childhood home in rural Mississippi, the one my grandparents had lived in, the one my parents had sold after they moved. It had a huge stone fireplace, and I vaguely remembered my grandmother always complaining about a loose floorboard in the living room. Could it be? I decided to call Dr. Alice Holloway, a child psychologist David had recommended. She specialized in children with unusual perceptual experiences. I explained Lily's situation, trying to keep my voice even, trying not to sound like a lunatic. Dr. Holloway listened patiently, her voice calm and reassuring. It's not uncommon for children, especially highly sensitive ones, to have vivid imaginary friends, Mr. Evans, she said. Sometimes these friends serve as a coping mechanism. Sometimes they are a way for a child to process information they've absorbed, even subconsciously. And sometimes, she paused, her voice taking on a thoughtful tone, sometimes there are things we don't fully understand about the human mind and its connection to the world around us. Let's bring Lily in. We can explore this together. A sliver of hope, mixed with a healthy dose of skepticism, began to form. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe Lily wasn't strange after all. Maybe she was just different. And maybe, just maybe, Mr. Whispers wasn't just a figment of imagination. Chapter 3. The Whispers of the Past. The first few sessions with Dr. Holloway were gentle. Lily seemed comfortable with her, drawing pictures, playing with toys. Dr. Holloway observed Lily's interactions with Mr. Whispers, asking open-ended questions. Lily described him as a soft, gentle voice, always helpful, always kind. He was never scary, never malicious, just informative. One afternoon, during a session, Lily sat cross-legged on the floor, intensely focused on a drawing. Mr. Whisper says the little girl missed her music box, she announced, her voice soft. It plays a special song. She wants it back. It's under the loose floorboard in the big house. My heart skipped a beat. A music box, not a doll. And the loose floorboard, that detail again. The music box. I remembered. My grandmother had a beautiful, ornate music box, made of dark wood with intricate carvings. It played a lullaby. I loved that music box as a child, but it had disappeared years ago. My parents had told me it must have been accidentally sold with some other items when they cleaned out the house. I looked at Dr. Holloway, whose eyes met mine with a knowing gaze. That's a very specific detail, Lily, she said, her voice calm. Do you know where this big house is? Lily shook her head. Mr. Whispers just shows me pictures in my head. A really old house and a garden with sunflowers. Dr. Holloway leaned forward. Mark, have you ever considered visiting your childhood home? The thought had been lingering, a quiet hum in the back of my mind. My grandparents' old farm in rural Mississippi. It had been sold to a new family years ago. I had avoided going back. Too many memories. But now, the music box, the floorboard, it was too specific to ignore. I'm going, I told Dr. Holloway. I have to. The drive to the small unnamed town in Mississippi was long and contemplative. The landscape shifted from the bustling cityscapes of Memphis to rolling fields of cotton and soybeans, interrupted by clusters of ancient oak trees. The air grew thicker, heavier, imbued with the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. This was the South I remembered from my childhood summers, a slower, older place. I had called the current owners, a quiet elderly couple named Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. They remembered my family, my grandparents. They agreed to let me visit, curious about my request to search for a hidden music box. The house stood unchanged, weathered by time, but familiar. The wraparound porch, the worn wooden steps, the scent of pine and old paper, a comforting aroma that transported me back decades. Inside, the living room was still dominated by the grand stone fireplace. I walked straight to the area where I remembered the loose floorboard. I knelt, my fingers tracing the outline of the old wood, and there it was, a slight give, a faint creak. With a grunt, I managed to pry it open. Dust motes danced in the shaft of sunlight filtering through the window. And there, tucked into the dark cavity beneath the floorboard, was a small, ornately carved wooden box. Not a music box, a small wooden toy chest, covered in faded, painted flowers. But inside, a smaller, intricate wooden music box, just as Lily and Mr. Whispers had described, and next to it, nestled among yellowed tissue paper, a small, worn rag doll, the kind of doll my grandmother would have made by hand. My hands trembled as I pulled out the music box. I wound the small key on the side. A faint, melancholic melody, a lullaby, filled the air. It was the same tune my grandmother used to hum, but there was something else in the cavity. Tucked under the music box, almost invisible in the dust, was a small, brittle envelope. My grandmother's familiar, elegant handwriting scrawled across it. To my dearest Mark, when the time is right. My heart pounded. This was it, the true purpose of this journey. I carefully retrieved the envelope, my fingers almost afraid to touch the fragile paper. Back in my car, parked under the shade of an ancient oak, I tore open the envelope. Inside, a single folded letter. My grandmother's words flowing from the faded ink. My dearest Mark, if you are reading this, then you have found the truth. Or perhaps the truth has found you. There is a secret, a sadness woven into the fabric of our family, one that has been kept hidden out of fear and misguided love. And I believe, my dear grandson, that you or perhaps your children carry a thread of it. My sister, your great-aunt Evelyn, she was not like the others. From a very young age, she spoke of things she could not possibly know, of friends only she could see, of places she had never visited, of memories that were not her own. Our parents, pragmatic and steeped in the superstitions of their time, were terrified. The doctors, back then, had no answers for such peculiarities. They called it nervousness, delusions. They said she was not right. And so, when Evelyn was just 6 years old, they took her away to a sanatorium, a special place where she could be helped. She was never the same, and eventually, after years, she was released, but she never truly returned to our family. She moved far away, seeking solace in the quiet solitude of rural Mississippi, changed by the treatment she endured, silenced by the fear that had been instilled in her. I tried to visit her, to speak to her, but my parents forbid it, fearful her condition would affect me or our other siblings. But I knew, Mark. I knew in my heart that Evelyn was not sick. She was special. She saw things, felt things that the rest of us could not. I believe she held a connection to something beyond our understanding, and sometimes, in her fleeting moments of clarity, she would speak of a whispering friend, a guide through her unique world. I tried to tell our parents they were wrong, but they were blinded by fear and societal expectations. They wanted a normal family, just like Sarah. And I was too weak to fight them. I regret that every single day. I write this to you now because I see something of Evelyn in your kind eyes, Mark. A sensitivity, a quiet strength. And I fear that this gift, this connection, may manifest in your own children. If it does, please, my dearest grandson, do not make the same mistakes we did. Do not fear what you do not understand. Protect them. Listen to them. For what they perceive may be a truth beyond our comprehension. And if you ever find yourself struggling to understand, listen to the whispers. They hold the answers. Evelyn lives in a small house, deep in the woods, near a place called Evergreen. She has always been alone. She may still be waiting for understanding, for acceptance, for a connection to the world she lost. With all my love, your grandmother Rose. The letter dropped from my shaking fingers onto the car seat. Evelyn, my great-aunt, a sister my grandmother had, hidden away, silenced. and a whispering friend. The words swam before my eyes. Lily, Mr. Whispers, the music box, the rag doll. It was all connected. A lineage of sensitivity, of unique perception, suppressed and feared. My grandmother's regret, a haunting echo across the decades. Chapter 4. The Path to Evergreen. I called Dr. Holloway from the car, my voice tight with emotion. I read her Grandma Rose's letter, the words tumbling out in a rush. She listened patiently, without interruption. "Mark," she said, her voice thoughtful when I finished. "This changes things. It suggests a deeper, almost ancestral connection to Lily's experiences. It's not uncommon for traits, even very subtle perceptual ones, to run in families, though not always in such a pronounced way. What your grandmother describes, it sounds like what some traditions might call a highly intuitive or even psychic sensitivity. But it was labeled as illness back then, out of fear and ignorance. So, Mr. Whispers, he's not just imaginary?" I asked, a mix of awe and trepidation in my voice. He could be a manifestation of Lily's subconscious access to these suppressed family memories, Dr. Holloway explained. Or, if we consider a more esoteric possibility, he could be a kind of spirit guide, a messenger connecting Lily to this forgotten lineage. Regardless of the exact nature, he is clearly providing her with information that is profoundly significant to your family's history. It's a message, Mark, a puzzle waiting to be solved. "What should I do?" I asked, feeling a strange blend of fear and exhilaration. "Go to Evelyn," she advised. "Take Lily. Follow the whispers. Your grandmother's letter is a beacon. This isn't just about Lily anymore, Mark. It's about healing a generational wound." I picked Lily up from David's apartment. She was playing quietly with the rag doll I had found. "Mr. Whispers says we're going to a new old house," she announced, her eyes bright. "And that someone is waiting for us. Someone who knows the doll." I looked at her, truly looked at her, seeing not a strange child, but a sensitive, perceptive soul, carrying a powerful, ancient gift. And for the first time, I felt a deep sense of peace. This wasn't a burden. This was a purpose. The address my grandmother gave for Evelyn was vague, just near Evergreen. It took several hours of driving, following winding rural roads that narrowed into dirt tracks before I found it. A small, unassuming house, almost hidden by overgrown trees and thick, thorny bushes. It looked like it had been swallowed by the forest. I pulled the car to a stop, the crunch of gravel echoing in the profound silence. Lily, unbuckling her seatbelt, pointed to the house. "That's it, Daddy," she exclaimed, her voice full of excitement. "That's the house Mr. Whispers showed me. And the garden, look!" Through the tangle of weeds, I could discern the faint outline of a stone bench, and then a rusty, wrought iron gate, half buried in the undergrowth, and towering above it all, a cluster of dried, skeletal sunflower stalks, reaching higher than the roof. Everything Lily had described, everything Mr. Whispers had told her. A figure emerged from the porch, a frail, elderly woman, her hair a wispy halo of white. She wore a simple, faded dress, her eyes, pale and watery, fixed on Lily. A profound, almost ethereal calm emanated from her. I approached cautiously, Lily clutching the rag doll. "Excuse me," I began, my voice hesitant. "Are you Evelyn?" Her gaze remained fixed on Lily. A slow, gentle smile spread across her face, a face etched with decades of solitude. "Yes," she whispered, her voice surprisingly clear, though thin. "And you are Mark, Rose's grandson. I've been expecting you." Chapter 5. The Reunion of Souls. The air around Evelyn hummed with an almost tangible sense of anticipation. Her eyes, filled with a deep, ancient wisdom. Never left Lily. She brought the doll, Evelyn said, her voice a soft murmur, more to herself than to me. The little doll, she remembers. Lily, usually shy with strangers, walked right up to Evelyn, holding out the rag doll. Mr. Whispers says she was waiting for her home, Lily said, her small voice full of a confidence I rarely saw. Evelyn reached out a trembling hand and gently touched the doll, her eyes closing briefly. A tear trickled down her wrinkled cheek. "My sweet Clara," she whispered. "My dear Clara, you've come home." Clara, the name resonated. My grandmother's lost sister. The baby my parents had lost before me. The name from my biological mother's letter. No, that was a different Clara. This was Evelyn's lost daughter. The threads, once tangled, were beginning to untangle, weaving a story far more intricate than I could have imagined. Evelyn led us inside her small house. It was sparsely furnished, but meticulously clean, filled with the scent of dried herbs and old books. We sat in the quiet living room, sunlight streaming through dusty windows. "I had a daughter, you see," Evelyn began, her voice soft, almost a lullaby. "My only child. Her name was Clara. She was special. From the moment she could speak, she saw things, heard things, voices only she could hear. She called them her whispering friends. She spoke of places she'd never been, of people she'd never met, of memories that were not hers." She paused, her gaze drifting to Lily, who was sitting quietly, holding the doll, listening intently. "My family," Evelyn continued, her voice tinged with a faint bitterness. "My parents, your great-grandparents, they were terrified. They believed she was possessed or mad. The doctors they brought in, they called it hysteria, delusions. They said she needed to be cured. And so when she was just a little older than your Lily, they took her from me, forced me to give her up to a sanatorium, a place where they treated children like her." A lump formed in my throat. This was the story from my grandmother's letter, but from Evelyn's perspective. My grandmother had written about Evelyn, her sister, being taken away. But Evelyn was talking about her daughter. "She died there," Evelyn whispered, her voice breaking. "Just a year later. They said it was a fever. But I knew it was from a broken spirit. She wasted away. And I never recovered. I blamed myself. I blamed my family for their fear. I blamed the world for its ignorance. I left everything, everyone. I came here to this quiet place to mourn my lost child, my lost life." She reached for Lily's hand, her touch surprisingly strong. But she never truly left me. I felt her presence, her whispers, always. And now she has returned, through you, my dear. Her eyes, watery with unshed tears, looked at Lily with an intensity that pierced my soul. You have her eyes, her spirit, her connection to the unseen world. "Mr. Whispers is Clara," Lily announced, her voice clear. "He said he was waiting for me, to come home." Mr. Whispers was Clara, not Lily's imaginary friend, but the spirit of Evelyn's lost daughter. He had been guiding Lily, bringing her to this place, to her ancestral family, to heal an ancient wound. Clara's gift, Evelyn explained, her voice gaining strength, was to see beyond the veil, to connect with lives that had passed, with energies that remained. Our family. Your grandmother, Rose. She also had it. Though not as strongly as Clara or you, Lily. She tried to suppress it, tried to be normal. But it was always there. It manifests strongest when the heart is open, when love is pure. She looked at me. Your grandmother, Rose. She regretted her silence. She saw the fear in your parents, the way they reacted to things they didn't understand. She saw the same patterns beginning to emerge with you, Mark, and then with Lily. And she knew. She knew the secret had to be revealed. The hidden truth had to be brought into the light. The music box, the rag doll. They were Clara's, her treasured possessions from her short life. My grandmother had hidden them, perhaps to protect them, perhaps as a silent memorial to the sister she had lost to fear and ignorance. And now, they had been returned to their true home, to Evelyn, through Lily. Chapter 6: A New Horizon. The revelations were overwhelming, yet strangely liberating. I understood everything now. Sarah's aversion to Lily's strangeness. It wasn't just about appearances. It was about her inability to comprehend something outside her rigid, rational worldview. My parents, in their fear of the unknown, had created a distance, a carefully constructed normalcy that had stifled my own sensitivities, and then Lily's. Dr. Holloway had been right. It was a message, a puzzle, a generational wound finally given a chance to heal. I spent the next few days with Evelyn and Lily. Evelyn, once a solitary figure, bloomed in Lily's presence. She told us stories of Clara, of her brief, vibrant life, of her whispering friends who brought her joy and knowledge. Lily, in turn, shared her own experiences with Mr. Whispers, now identified as Clara, finding validation and understanding in Evelyn's acceptance. I saw Lily thrive. Her quietness remained, but it was now a quiet strength, a contemplative stillness. She was no longer burdened by the need to hide her connection to the unseen. She was free. I called Sarah. The conversation was calm, devoid of the previous animosity. I explained as best I could the revelations about Evelyn, Clara, and Lily's gift. Sarah listened, her silence punctuated by sharp intakes of breath. I don't understand any of this, Mark, she said, her voice thin, laced with a familiar fear. It's too much. It's not normal. I can't live like this. I know, Sarah, I said, my voice gentle. And you don't have to. I'm not asking you to. Lily needs a home where she is fully accepted for who she is, for all of who she is, and so do I. The divorce was inevitable, but this time there was no bitterness, only a quiet understanding. Sarah needed her perfect, predictable world. I needed a life built on truth, acceptance, and unconditional love, a life that embraced the extraordinary. I returned to Memphis, finalized the divorce, and made arrangements to move. My life, once meticulously planned, was now open, uncertain, but filled with a profound sense of purpose. I spoke with Dr. Holloway again. She offered to continue working with Lily, helping her to navigate her unique sensitivities, to understand and develop her gift in a healthy, grounded way. I sold my house in Memphis, freeing myself from the last vestiges of Sarah's perfect life. I bought a small plot of land near Evelyn's house in Mississippi, not far from the quiet town of Evergreen. A place where Lily could grow up surrounded by nature, where her whispering friends would be understood, not feared. I would build a home there, a real home, not a perfect one, but an honest one. Lily and I visited Evelyn regularly. She became a beloved great aunt, a living connection to a forgotten past. Lily, with Clara's spirit as her guide, helped Evelyn find peace and healing after decades of sorrow. Evelyn finally saw her daughter, not gone, but reborn in a new spirit, carrying on her unique legacy. My relationship with my own parents, though still strained, had a new, fragile honesty. They struggled with the revelations, with the weight of their own mother's secret and their own contribution to my emotional distance. But for the first time, there was a glimmer of understanding, a tentative step towards genuine connection. The journey was far from over. There would be challenges. The world wasn't always kind to those who were different. But I was no longer afraid. I had found my true north. My daughter Lily was not ruining our family. She was revealing it. She was unearthing its deepest secrets, its hidden truths, and guiding us toward a future built not on a manufactured image, but on the unwavering, unconditional love of a father for his extraordinary daughter, and the echoes of an ancient, whispering soul. The threads of our family, once tangled and broken, were slowly, finally, being rewoven, stronger and more vibrant than ever before.